introduce the incredible team behind this. First up, I'd like to introduce Arjun Bhasin, our costume designer. The clothing in this is so stunning. So, Arjun, we have so many questions. Next up, we have Laura Karpman, our incredible composer. Oh, come on up. Take a seat, make yourself comfy. Next up, we have our incredible executive producer, Sana Amanat. Sana and I go back. This is like, I think the first time I moderated with you was maybe about 8 years ago.
I think so.
Yeah, now look.
Brown ladies stay connected. You know? That's how it works.
It's true. It's a good community. And finally, not last but not least, I can't even talk right now. This is just an amazing actress. I'm so obsessed with her. I want to be her when I grow up, and I'm definitely old enough to be her auntie. But here's our Miss Marvel, Iman Vellani. Looking incredibly marvelous with the sparkles. Hi.
Hi.
And make sure you're sitting next to me. Okay, so there is so much to talk about, and I know we just got through episode 1. So for everyone here, I just rewatched the entire series this week and found that it hit me a lot harder on second watch and more intensely. But I want to go back to this episode 1 and what was really, really important. And Sana and Iman, I want to put this to you. What was really, really important in capturing in that first episode, because that is the entrance into Kamala's world, it's the entrance into the entire setup, and it's a lot of characters that you're introducing.
Me first? Yeah. Oh, wow. She respects her elders, you guys. She's got it all. You know, I think, you know, the biggest thing for us was to make sure that we were creating a show that was fun and accessible, especially getting into the MCU. A lot of people probably had not seen a lot of the other Marvel projects that the show was targeted for. And so we wanted to feel light and joyful and sweet and quirky and really just introduce Kamala as Iman and showcase her as this young person trying to figure out the world, but just have the audience fall in love with her. And of course, stylistically, we wanted it to look distinct and different as well. So that was one of the most important things. And then we made her do some great acting.
Yeah, I think in real life I was a young person trying to figure out the world. So that worked perfectly. I really got to like go on my entire personal arc with Kamala as we were filming the episodes. And like episode 1 is just such a love letter to the fans, you know, having Avenger Con, just like by the way, like so much fun filming that thing. It was like Easter eggs galore. And I was coming into this as like such a Marvel geek. It's the only reason I auditioned in the first place. And for real, like I've never auditioned in anything in my entire life. And I like read every single Miss Marvel comic when I was in high school. And so like this entire episode was just like my life, and you know, being able to like see Easter eggs in real time, and they would like even ask me, oh, what do you want in there, like, and I'm like, Iron Man references, all of that. But yeah, I think episode 1 was really just like to grab audiences' attentions. We wanted to have a wide of a reach as possible, you know, get every type of diaspora just watching the show, because it really is for everyone. You don't have to be, you know, brown or a 16-year-old girl. It's if you're a fan, you'll like the show because it was made by fans, you know? And so, yeah, that was kind of...
But I will say, as a brown girl, I was so happy to see this world finally. I'd covered all the Marvel movies from Iron Man onwards, and, you know, you do sort of wonder, where is our community? How do we fit in? And it was so wonderful. But I also... The moment you appear on screen as Kamala, like no one else could play this role. It was you. Did you feel like it had to be you?
It's so, I feel like I was still cosplaying just on a bigger scale when I was like 15 when I
This
made
is
my
your AvengerCon.
literally I made my own Miss Marvel cosplay when I was 15 years old. My grandma and I went to the thrift store. She sewed on the lightning bolt for me, and so like episode 1 was just so personal because like you see Kamala making her cosplay suit, how much like AvengerCon means to her. I wanted to go to Comic-Con more than anything in the entire world. Still haven't gone. We'll go this year, so I'm very excited. But it's just like this fan culture is such a big part of this show, and especially for Kamala, it means so much. And little girls are fans of comic books, and brown girls do like read Iron Man, and it's just, yeah, we really wanted to have that on display.
So true. Brown girls do. We were big fans of this. And
Yeah.
it's so good to see it on screen finally. So for a lot of people here have actually seen the whole series. So I kind of want to get into the whole series because you have 6 episodes and you have packed in such an epic odyssey across those episodes. So I want to ask a little bit about what it was like to balance the superhero of it all and the contemporariness of it all with the nostalgia, with the history, with the culture. It's just so much, and yet you guys do it so effortlessly. So I'm curious to know, between you and Bisha Ali, who adapted this incredible series, what did you guys discuss and how did you balance those elements?
Well, when I first joined the project, I was told that we were going to go from Jersey City to Pakistan to the partition. And I was like, this is pretty insane. Do we have enough money? And it it was a lot. And I want to give a actually shout out to my supervising producer, Jenna Berger, who's sitting in the back right behind the camera. But she and I and Bisha and the directors and the whole sort of creative team really understood the importance of finding that balance. Not only were we had a lot of things we needed to do and accomplish, but not only were we needing to tell a superhero story, we needed to tell a story that linked and talked about representation and cultural identity. And for us, the way to actually tell that story was going back. We're talking about identity and like the source of your identity, especially if you're, you know, the kids of an immigrant of immigrants or immigrant yourself. It is about where is your source point? What is your origin? Where does it all start? And for us, it made sense to go to partition and tell the story of Kamala, where she came from, in order for us to understand her and so that she could understand herself. So finding that balance across 6 episodes was really ambitious, but we had such incredible creative partners with our composer and our costume designer and the rest of the crew who really brought the entire show to life, but specifically that episode. I think it was such an important one.
I have to say, I don't really get to see the partition on screen very often, and we forget this is not ancient history. This happened like 80 years ago. It's as our grandmothers had gone through this, and to see it, I think this is why it like hit harder this second viewing around, because first time I was like into like Kamala's origin story, but second time around, that family story, the sacrifices made, it was so emotional to watch that and see it reflected in a movie like in a show like this. A movie like this did feel very cinematic in a show like this, because it reaches an audience that goes beyond just us, and it teaches this history that may not always get taught. So I really love that. Arjun, for you, how was it bringing in all these influences? Again, you're weaving in that history, the cultural authenticity into like today's contemporary streetwear and style. So tell me a little bit about that process of creating all the costumes there.
Well, I mean, it was just on the page. It's what we had to do, the idea of representation. And to represent Kamala correctly, there was so much about so many different types of representation. She had to be represented as a young woman from New Jersey, but also to talk about, you know, her as an artist and her as a South Asian person and her as, you know, where does she get her power from? What are the things that are important to her? It's family, friends, history, culture, all of those things. And we wanted to be honest to all of those parts of her rather than just showing her as one kind of person. So it was a challenge, but also like super exciting. And when we found that, you know, her power actually was herself, and herself, the idea of self is about, you know, all the histories that went into it. So we wanted to show all those things.
I love that. Iman, did you have a favorite piece that you wore? Obviously, outside of
Oh
the
my
Miss
God.
Marvel costume.
Okay.
I went shopping after. After we wrapped, literally went to the costume department and stole everything. I have like pretty much all of Kamala's pieces, shipped them in bags. Arjun is not even giving himself enough credit here. Like, it is so rare when you watch like a coming of age movie or anything where there's like teenagers and you know, they're just wearing like very basic Target clothing. And Arjun like was very on point with like having me involved too, and like the types of stuff that I was comfortable in and that I liked. And I was like, I went to an art school and like I was into all the like quirky stuff, the baggy clothes and layering, and he incorporated all of that and just made her such a real tangible person through her outfits. We had like little pins and badges, like all those little details matter. And it just, yeah, it really came across really well.
Can I tell you, as a brown producer, partnering with also a brown costume designer and being like, okay, we're gonna do a big Eid event, and I don't know, just get a bunch of stuff. And he's like, and it just to be able to talk about things like anarkalis, and he gets it and he knows it, and he just did such incredible work, and he found that balance of showing distinct South Asian American people and also distinct individuals. Like what he did with Nakia was so great because he was very sensitive about her wearing the hijab and also making her look modern, and just really fantastic work. And then it got elevated when we went to Pakistan and India in 4 and 5. So we're just lucky to have this guy.
The work is incredible. I would have worn all of those outfits, and that, you know, I think to make it feel so of its time, as well as throwing back, is you just did an incredible job. And it's that common language you share. That's the power in bringing people together in shows like that. It's not about checking boxes. It's literally about like the familiarity, the knowledge, the expertise. You know, that's what I love about this. Laura, we have to talk about the music. Because my goodness, is the music so incredible. The score is so fantastically, again, you guys just do this contemporary nostalgia, everything. You're weaving it all in beautifully, and you're keeping it epic as well as intimate. So talk me through that process.
Well, yeah, we did do that.
It's a journey.
Didn't we did that. Look, first of all, it was a collaboration. I worked with fantastic South Asian musicians, Raginder, who Sana brought to me, who's a fantastic violinist. We had a battery of percussion. We had a wonderful Bansuri flute player. So the real idea was collaborating between these sounds and what is, I would say, I don't want to say typical, but what is to your ear an MCU sound, because it was also important to bring her into the MCU. And we wanted to give Kamala the dignity of a superhero theme. And that was very important. And of a superhero theme like Iron Man, or I would say more like Captain America even, so that you're not othering her musically, you're including her into something, but while leaning on these other elements to bring in those influences, which become so important. So I'll tell you all a very, very funny story. I think it's funny. It's beautiful and inspiring. Sana, who I absolutely adore and consider one of my best friends now, right? Like we're like best friends. Yeah.
We've spent a lot of
She
time
said
together.
no
A lot
to
of time
that. That
together.
would have been terrible.
And it was intense because I had 5 days to score episode 5, which is, I mean, it was just, it was crazy. So she was over a lot. And, but when she first came to my studio, she said, I want a theme and I want it to go like this. And I thought, I get that. It's da-da-da, da-da-da, you know, that, so that became her theme, just these kind of wonderful motions. But I think what she was looking for was this feeling of ascension, right? This feeling of growing, this feeling of taking a wonderful young person who's just finding herself and having these kind of steps up a ladder, so to speak. And so that became her theme. And that's in short of it. And then there's the high school stuff, which is just kind of funky and electronic and lives in that world. So I think in episode 1, you hear a lot of that. And then as you get into Avenger Con and some of the more action-y sequences, you start to hear Kamala's theme be introduced.
The other thing I'm going to quickly add is like the cool thing about working with Laura is she's not South Asian. She's
you can tell,
I don't
right?
just in case you know.
I was going to make a joke, but I thought I shouldn't, you know?
Good idea.
Gonna touch
Muslim,
that one.
not Muslim. But I think it just shows like when you are a creative partner and you don't represent that faith or that culture, understanding the importance of research and listening and being a real partner. Like she was an incredible partner. I'd be like, oh, this is not working because I just doesn't feel, it feels, she's like, got it. And she sought out the right musicians, the instruments she knew so well. Obviously, she's a brilliant composer and she knows so much. But I think to me, just in terms of like what it means, like what allyship means and what partnership means, like Laura gets it. And I think because she worked so hard and she was so passionate about it, I was so appreciative and I knew we were in such great hands because she was just so careful with the work and we love her for it.
Oh, thank you so
The
much.
score is incredible.
Thank you.
I love that. It just feels like such a beautifully authentic and collaborative process. Iman, do you have that as your theme tune on your phone if anyone rings you?
I remember the first time I heard like the full theme. I think I was at your hotel room in New York. I had like just started doing press for the show, and you were like in your final meeting for the score and stuff. And like Sana let me listen to it. Literally got chills. And speaking as a fan, it wasn't even just like. I just want to hear it like in a cinema, you know. It's one of those, and
Oh, you will. That's coming
Laura's
up.
working
That's
on
next.
the Marvels that comes out in November.
That's
and I'm
next.
so excited.
November, what is it? 10th, right?
November 10th.
Oh,
yeah.
you will. Yes, you
It's,
will.
so I'm thrilled to hear that. Yeah, it was just amazing, and it just like makes you feel so powerful. I have this routine before I go see any Marvel movie where I have this like 12-minute soundtrack of like the Iron Man theme, Captain America, and Thor, and the Avengers, and it's this orchestral, just like amazing thing that I illegally downloaded.
It's your fight song. This is it. This is how you get geared up.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I want Laura's theme just added onto that, you know, track.
That's coming out of your pocket now. You know that, right?
It's too good.
It's so good. I would literally just have it playing behind me all the time when I enter a room.
Yeah, I like make my parents come to the movie theater early with me. We sit in the parking lot and you have to like silently listen to the 12-minute thing. No one's allowed to speak. It's a whole ritual. We do it every time.
Well, you know, it's this crazy experience because, of course, I've spent so much time with her, but I've never met her.
This is my first time meeting
Yeah,
her.
so it's just this really weird thing where, yes, every time you come into a room, that's your theme, and that's my reality with you, which is interesting. You are that character on the screen, and so I associate that with you now. It's this kind of weird stalky thing that composers do. I think.
You're like observing.
But don't
and
get nervous.
drawing.
Yeah.
I'm flattered.
You should be. You have a theme song.
I have a theme song.
And it's incredible. It's epic. It's not like a goofy one, you know. It's so epic. So you mentioned your parents, and this is something I just want to talk about because Kamala's parents are obviously such a big, beautiful part of this storyline. And let me tell you, as a brown girl growing up in the 90s and 2000s, if we ever did see brown parents, it was always such a stereotype. And my parents aren't that stereotype. They're, you know, goofy and weird. Yeah. And to see two parents who are trying to understand their daughter but not, you know, fight with her so much, to not see the fights, to not see the strictness, but really to see them meet at the middle, understand each other, grow with each other. My goodness, that was like so beautifully powerful. And I'm just curious, I want to, you know, just put that question to you guys about why was it important to make that relationship so authentic and real and how do you make sure you avoid those stereotypes?
Well, I think it's, first of all, so important to showcase children of immigrant parents who are proud of their culture and you know, don't try to run away from it every second that they get. And Kamala's parents they aren't caricatures, they're real people, and they really want to grow with her. You know, they didn't grow up in such a Western community that like Kamala has, and I can say the same thing for my parents. Like the first time I asked to wear short shorts, and like, you know, it's just all these like little things of growing up, and you know, I'm seeing like my white friends do things that I want to do. My parents are always like so iffy about that because they didn't grow up with it. So, but I think what we really wanted to show with Kamala's parents is like they're learning from her and they're learning with her, and they want to be there for her. Like, regardless if she's going to save the world and she's going to risk her life every day, we want to know that she's doing that. We want to be there for her. We want to protect her. And all her morals and her values come from her parents and her cultural background. And I think that's really the heart of the character, and that's what grounds her. And also, how cool is it that she has alive parents?
Yes,
Like,
thank you.
one of the only
Don't kill
superheroes
off
that
parents.
has like parents or like walking. Yeah.
We talked about that actually when we were back in the day when Willow and I were working on the comic. It was about, do you give her a tragedy? And it was really important for us to show like a real, authentic, quirky brown family who they're kind of strict sometimes. But the strictness is not because they're brown or Muslim. It's because they're just like afraid for their child. Like every parent. Yeah, it just is slightly skewed. Like they'll just give them, kebabs and biryani for lunch instead of, a regular turkey sandwich, which I always wanted when I was younger. Never happened, but
I mean, the things we want, I wanted peanut butter and jam sandwiches.
what is
And
that?
my mum is serving me up like full on lamb curry. And I'm like, no, give me those sandwiches.
Now we want it though, and I'm like, where's my free
Literally,
food,
every
Mom?
time I go home, I like have a full menu I give to my mother. I'm like, I need butter
I fly
chicken.
all the way to England for the lamb. It's ready for me. This is what Indian parents do. And Desi parents, South Asian parents, it's all about the food. They just want to feed us. The food in this was so good, by the way. I was so hungry watching it as well. And then I did order Indian food. That's how it goes. The power this show has impacts you on all the levels. Can we talk a little bit about the teen element of this as well? Because obviously, again, growing up in the 90s, 2000s, teen comedies, teen rom-coms were my life. And to see so much of that nostalgia woven in, and then also feel like it's very, very like modern. What was the fun in bringing those elements? Kamala's crushes, a little bit of a hot boy Cameron situation. What was it like to bring all of those elements in?
That was Jenna and I. Okay, so Jenna and I had a lot of fun with that because we love rom-coms. And so when we were filming in Atlanta every weekend, we'd watch a different rom-com. Now we're forcing Iman to watch all the classic rom-coms.
I watched Pretty Woman for the first time.
It was very,
Not
I'm
age
so
yours.
sorry, it doesn't age well, but she's just gotta learn. She's gotta learn. So for us, that was like one of the most fun parts was like showcasing the crushes, and like Rish Shah, who plays Kamran, and Matt, who plays Bruno, they're just like such sweet people. And I think like for Kamala, seeing Kamran for the first time just felt like you just become like a young 16-year-old again. And it's stuff that is, especially as South Asian and Muslim, we don't really talk about young brown girls having crushes and liking boys. And we thought that was really, really important. And also making sure musically that was highlighted through that experience. Like we would, play the entire soundtrack, me and Jenna in the apartment, and discover these really great South Asian artists, which then we sent to Laura, and I just feel like it gave it a different sound, her young teen romantic experience. So all of that was just so much fun to play with, and and who will she end up with? We don't know.
I don't know.
I just like seeing a hot brown boy on screen.
Us
To,
too,
like,
yeah.
crush over.
Literally, I was like, hot British guy. I didn't call Rich by his name for so long. And I think like stylistically too, it just like exaggerated Kamala's entire world, because when you are a 16-year-old girl, everything that you're feeling, it's like the first time you're feeling it. So your senses are just, your emotions are so heightened. Your crushes feel like the end of the world, and using animation and clothing and music and everything that, our creative team had put together. It's just elevated that in such a beautiful level. And I felt like I was back in high school. Like,
You basically
I was just
had
about to say, I was,
barely
like,
left high
17.
school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, what was it like for? I know, right? all those days ago when I had a beard. What was it like actually for you? Because you're the same age. You're playing this character at that age. So what is it like to actually tap into like that big crush feeling, or that kind of awe and wonder when she discovers her powers? Which I'm sure you had in real life too. That's a real thing that you went through, I'm sure. What was it like for you to go? Because it's not really, you're not reaching that far back, right? So really, did you just feel like you're kind of just living it?
I was living it. I think a lot of it came from just like the set and like the tech that we were using. Everything was so new to me. I'd never been on a film set, and so everything that Kamala was experiencing for the first time, I was too, just on a very different level. She was getting hard light powers, and I was putting a purple LED ball in my hand, but it was just as cool to me. And I think just like we were experiencing everything, and it was like just sensory overload all the time. And yeah, I was 18 when I filmed it, and I just came out of high school, so everything was still fresh. And the directors for episode 1 and 6, Adil and Bilal, they used to like call me a lot, and we would talk for like hours, and it would just end up being like therapy sessions of me venting about high school. Like there was a whole chat about how much I hated my guidance counselor. I shouldn't say that. I didn't like, he wasn't super helpful, and that ended up being like a scene. So they really like were so great about asking me questions about my life, you know, saying, what would I do? And Sana and Jenna and like our entire team just like respected my opinion so much. And you know, you watch like shows that are about teenagers and they're written by like 4-year-olds, and you're like, obviously this isn't real. And I think we had so many young people on our set that you guys just like really used us and let us kind of take the lines and make them our own, and just like be how we would be in real life. And I think that just like made our show and all these characters even more specific and real and tangible as possible. So yeah,
It took me right back to the awkwardness, but in a good way.
that's what we wanted.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for making me feel young again. Can we talk a little bit about Bisha Ali, who is in England and working things, but she is, you know, she's the force that helped create, you know, bring this to TV and adapt it. And I think, again, to have a brown Muslim woman at the core of this is so important, because it's that authenticity that I think so often we lack in that adaptation process, bringing authentic stories to screen. So what was the process like for all of you just working with Bisha, and what do you think she was able to bring uniquely to the show?
Well, when I first learned about Bisha being on the show, I was like, oh my God, there's like another Pakistani creator in the world who's a woman. And that was very, very exciting. And I think she really dug into even her family history. And, you know, she was she's very funny and very thoughtful, and really brought a lot of herself into the show. And also like really forced it to be bigger. I mean, that really came out of the writer's room, going to Partition, going to sort of these unexpected places that, frankly, I was afraid for us to do because it was a lot. But I think she really saw overall what it could be, and, you know, was just a wonderful creative partner and full of great ideas. You know, and it was just such a real pleasure. She's a wonderful person.
She's awesome. Yeah. I don't know what we can say about, you know, the future of this. But
Don't look at me.
Arjun, what can we say?
Arjun knows.
There's going to be a lot more super suits.
The super suit, though, can we talk about that super suit real quick? Just because he made it, and that is very rare for that to happen. For a costume designer, yeah.
Well, we shot Ms. Marvel during high pandemic, and there was absolutely no way to travel anywhere or go anywhere or do anything. So we actually built the super suit in our office in Atlanta while we were shooting. And it was strange because it was I don't know, in other shows I feel like super suits like appear, someone gives it to in our show it's given to her by her mother who makes it. So we wanted it to be very much about the family and about the family dynamic. And the super suit is a reflection of the other things that Kamala has worn through the show and how it just evolves. It's the next evolution of what she's wearing, and her mother just keeps seeing her in different things and is like, I'm going to make you something that's safe and comfortable, but also speaks to us, to our history and our heritage. So there's a lot of stuff in the super suit that is Islamic calligraphy, color, iconographies. There's a lot of things in there that aren't, that we translated from the comic into how it would actually be. So it was really like a hand-spun, homemade thing that we made for Kamala based on her personality. And I loved that for us. That
So
was really
beautiful.
fun.
I did too.
Excellent
Yeah.
deflection, by the way.
Yes, it wasn't meant to be.
But
No,
it's
we hope
perfect.
that there's
glad
more.
I'm glad you got us into the suit because I did think it was so meaningful. It was great to see the evolution of it, and then for her mother to give her the suit was just
And it was comfy.
yeah. It looked so cool, but also that you're not sitting there going, how are they moving? Like,
Yeah, we had so many fittings like while we were filming the other episodes in my trailer. I remember like everyone was trying to get in the seat like to be a part of it. The first time we put it on, do you remember we were like cutting it while it was still on me, like drawing on the lightning bolts. It was made out of like paper at that point. So it was just like such a wonderful process, like watching it come together and then like seeing myself in a super suit after like creating the exact same thing 4 years ago with my grandma, and now I have the best grandma ever. He's truly the sweetest, very endearing. I mean that in the most loving way. But yeah, it was just, and the amount it meant, like all the prints, the fabrics, the scarf, and the significance of everything. It really just made me feel like, I was this hero in it, and exactly like how Kamala would have felt if like, your mom gave you something that she handmade from Pakistan, like with all these like little hidden details. And so, yeah, I was very impressed by that.
I did not mean to deflect. I'm so sorry.
Right? Listen,
I
there's
hope
one
there's
thing
more.
I've learned from Marvel, anyone working within Marvel, is that they are experienced deflectors. They will never answer questions. But also, I'm really glad you brought up the suit because we do want to know about we need to know about that. But I am really glad that we are getting you on the big screen.
Yeah.
In like 6 months from now. Can you just tell us a little bit about that experience of going? I don't even want to call this small screen. This was so epic in so many ways. But what was it like to take that character now into a bigger part of the MCU?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so great is like now with the movie, Kamala's a lot more experienced and feels at home in her powers, and she's stuck working with like these two other superheroes, and she has such a romanticized version of what being a hero looks like and being a part of a team looks like. She's obsessed with the Avengers. They're literally Earth's mightiest heroes. She reads comic books. Her favorite character is this cosmic lady that fights crime in space. And so she's going into this movie with like really high expectations. And so I think it's going to be super fun to kind of see how like each of the three women's idea of heroism kind of clashes with one another. And it's like this forced team up. And yeah, I just had so much fun playing with it. It was my first time like sharing the screen with someone for so long, because on the show it was like we had so many characters and they were all on a lazy Susan and I was the only constant, and I loved working with everyone, but it was just nice to have like a team, and Bree and Tiana are so, they feel so at home in this world, and I did get to learn a lot from them in terms of self-care. You get a lot of bruises on this job, and bath salts are just so it was nice, and we honestly have created a very, very sweet friendship out of all of this.
I'm so excited to see it. I need this story to never end. I need Miss Marvel to never end. So please make sure it never ends.
Us too. I mean, I hope you guys like watch it and keep watching it and tell your
Yes.
friends. And it is the best reviewed Marvel series / project ever.
As it should be. It's so good.
Yeah. So we'd love to do more, and she obviously is going to be in the MCU hopefully for a very, very long time.
I
but
have no life outside of this.
she really doesn't.
Yeah.
If someone who wears Iron Man cologne or has Iron Man cologne on their table, she doesn't wear it. It smells weird. But she has it. It means she's a lifer.
Yeah.
Nothing makes me happier than having someone who's such a true fan of the world and the comics come to this character, and you are Miss Marvel to everyone. This is you now. You got the weight of the world on your shoulders.
I don't feel it, man.
Good. Don't. We're here. We just want to watch you. So thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for being here on a Saturday. Make sure you keep watching and talking about this. Miss Marvel, everyone.
Thank you.